Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Spectral, Wound, Songs of Blood, and Mire, out August 23rd on Profound Lore Records. The album has 7 tracks, 43 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4th full-length studio album. They are a Canadian black metal band. From a design standpoint, the album feels very straightforward. Not that it needs to be complicated by no means. I think this is a record where the songs do all the talking, all the heavy lifting, and not having an intro, not having an outro, not having interludes really removes all the fluff away from the record, and you get just the bare bones. 7 quality tracks that feel very dynamic, that feel very fluid, that have almost a sense of an uninterrupted movement, which makes this album super entertaining and very engaging for the listener. As far as the sound is concerned, the record has that old school approach and the sound and the production behind that same sound. But it's not just an old school record. This is by no means an album that's been stuck or been placed in a time capsule and now you're finally getting to listen to it. This album still has a lot of modern elements to it, which allows the overall sound experience to be a lot richer, to be a lot more textured, giving this album a lot more. It's a more dynamic record because of it. It doesn't feel linear. It doesn't feel constricted. It's not an album that sound-wise feels very narrow. It's an album that has not just forward movement, but it has lateral movement. Some songs have a little bit more of an old school, gritty, grimy, dark and sinister guitar-driven approach. Those, because of the sound, because of the nature of the sound, that old school style, they feel very narrow and concise. And then moments within the songs where there's clarity, where there's a more richer, brighter sound, either be in a melodic riff or in a solo, you see the change in dynamics, you see the change in the textures of the guitars, and the songs become a little bit bigger. They widen up a little bit. So this is a record that's not just moving forward, it's not just moving up and down, but it also moving laterally, making songs a little bit narrow, a little bit wider, a little bit narrow, a little bit wider. This creates a lot of movement and makes the album and it makes these songs so engaging. You just feel like every song is a mini roller coaster ride in an overall album that has you glued to it from the first second to the last second. And within that sound and within that movement, I think the guitars are driving that movement. They are behind the steering wheel, controlling where this record is going to go. A lot of that texture, a lot of that warmth, a lot of that richness, but also a lot of that grit is coming from them. And I think this album, from that standpoint, allows the guitars to be the main protagonist. They are the spinal cord of everything that's happening on this record. And having a guitar sound that is not one-dimensional allows them to be a lot more. It allows them to give a lot more to these songs, to change the mood of the songs, to not allow the atmosphere of this album to be stagnant. The atmosphere of this album is as dynamic as the sound behind it, and in my humble opinion, it is all because of how rich, how evolved the guitar sound is. Controlling how much you want to go old school, injecting some more modern and even melodic black metal elements into the sound allows this record to have a lot more life, and in my opinion, the sound on this record to be a lot more potent and far-reaching. Another element of the sound that I thought was important was the bass. In some records, you see the bass consistently in the forefront to create groove, but to create darkness, to add an underlying belly to where the song is going with the atmosphere behind it. On this record, I felt like the bass was impactful, but not to that extent. It never comes close to the impact that the guitars are having. You can hear it sometimes a little bit more up front, sometimes a little bit more at the distance, but they found a way of making the bass have an impact in the vibe, in the mood of the song, without necessarily upsetting the sonic trajectory that the track has. You still feel like you're always connected to the guitar sound. The bass is there to kind of add some internal ebbs and flows and to better define the emotional moments of the song and the atmospherical moments of the song. And I thought having that intelligence to know how far you could take it and how far back you could push it, still making an impact but not completely putting its fingerprint on the record, I thought was really important for this album to work in the way that it does. And the same thing could be said for the drums. This is an album where the drums at times feel powerful, creating a wall of sound, matching up with the guitars to build that wall of sound, being just another brick on that wall. And sometimes you feel like the drums push even forward a little bit more, becoming heavier, more powerful, a lot more demanding of the attention of the listener, injecting not just drive to the songs, but a lot of heaviness into the tracks. So while the bass is peaking and then pulling itself back, the drums, I felt, were at a steady level and pushing themselves forward. So you have two elements with similar characteristics in terms of what they give to the sound, almost, two members of the same pack, but while both have a little bit the ability to start at the same point or have the ability to meet at the same point, one is able to push forward while the other one is able to scale back. This creates movement in the back end. It adds to that overall depth. It adds to that overall width and gives freedom to the guitars to be the ones in the forefront, controlling the action and the direction of this record. Now, vocally, the album is very consistent, is very balanced. Perhaps the one element on this album that doesn't really offer any movement. It stays linear in its shape from start to end, but I honestly don't think you need movement from the vocals. You just want the vocal performance to match the intensity, to match the aggression and the atmosphere of the record. And I felt like overall this album vocally definitely did that. I like the performance, I like the style, I like the approach. It matched well with the overall vibe, and it was a perfect partner to the sound that the band had created. And they created really a phenomenal record. I really think that this is the type of approach that I want to see from bands, not necessarily choosing a more modern style, not necessarily choosing a more old school approach, kind of blending the two genres in order to create something that is unique to them. And I feel like that's exactly what this album offers. A little bit of a unique experience that represents who Spectral Wound are all about. As far as favorite songs goes, I want to start off with Fevers and Suffering. This is the opening track on the record. I love the fact that while the album doesn't have an intro, this song has a little bit of a built-up intro, the way the track gets started. Then it moves in, you hear the bass coming in, the song picks up, it becomes a little bit more of an intense track, but the darkness is there, and the bass does a lot in order to control that darkness to a certain degree. It's a song that has a sense of having a wall of sound, but the guitars still feel penetrating enough in order to break through that wall, or at least push that wall forward. It's not a linear track, it has a lot of ebbs and flows, which makes the song a lot more fluid. The melodic riffs within this song really help break that big wall of sound. It gives you pockets that you're able to digest the track a little bit better, and it's able to reset itself multiple times as you're going through it. It has a very catchy sound when you get into those more melodic pockets. Next you have the Horn Marauding. This track has this certain darkness to it, and I think that is a vibe that the song gives and becomes a little bit of the calling card of the track itself. It has this murkier experience to it. There are some cleaner guitar sounds in it, but overall the heavy drums that the song has, specifically when the song guitar-wise feels cleaner, adds an incredible sense of heaviness, because there's nothing there to hide the drum sound. When the guitars become cleaner, the drums become heavier. When the guitars become a little bit more dirtier, the drums lose a little bit of that intensity. So it's a nice way of constructing a track, create movement between the elements, making the song very dynamic, and allowing the song to be very textured as far as the guitars are concerned. The way the song finishes off with a guitar sound is absolutely haunting. It makes your hair stands up in your arms. It's just that kind of way of finishing with this very sinister melody, with this very sinister sound. I really enjoy this song, and that closing puts an exclamation mark on it. Last but not least, A Coin Upon the Tongue. This is perhaps one of the most textured songs, specifically guitar-wise. It's incredibly dynamic, it's incredibly diverse as far as the sounds and experiences of the guitars are concerned. There's no other track on this album that offers these many ebbs and flows, these many changes, that offers this much of engagement as far as guitar sound is concerned. This track gives you so much guitar-wise and really solidifies the impact of the guitar sound, not just on this track, but on the album in general. But this is a very rich guitar sounding song. It's a song that has great vocals, it has great movement, great design. But let's face the facts, when you listen to this song, you're going to gravitate to the guitars and all the different things that they're offering without necessarily breaking the track up. Somehow they found a way of constructing a song that offers fluidity, that offers great movement between its parts, even though a lot of its parts offer different textures to it. This is it, Spectral Wound with Song of Blood and Mire. Songs of Blood and Mire, out August 23rd on Profound Lore Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.